Sobermeyer for digital photography class. So this unit is we're exploring the idea of surrealism, of tapping into the unconscious mind, the imagination to create imagery that's completely new, not something that you would see in front of your face. As photographers in this compositing unit that we've been working on, we're working on creating imagery from our photography, but it is not necessarily something that ever took place in reality, okay? In this particular project, we're really pushing it and trying to draw on the idea of dreams, um, randomness, and the subconscious. Okay, so we are going to practice creating a surrealist landscape. This is just one way of possibly going at this project. It's not something you have to do, but we're going to create almost like a blank mind, a landscape that represents a blank mind, and then you are going to eventually bring more and more elements into it and let those elements play with each other. Okay, so you're going to be selecting things from your photographs, masking them, and bringing them into this. Right now in this tutorial, I'm just going to teach you how to create the backdrop. And you don't have to create it exactly like this. It's just to give you some tools to possibly, some ideas on how to use Photopea to paint a backdrop or a landscape that looks similar to those that many of the surrealists used. All right, so we're going to start with a new project. Click on New Project, and we are going to call it Surrealism Practice. All right, we're going to change, oh, and always put your name, sorry. Always put your name in there. And a number if you're going to do more than one. We're going to change this to inches, and we're going to make the width 14 inches and the height is going to be 11. The DPI will be 300, so we could possibly print these. We're going to push create. All right, so first off, we're going to start with the rectangular select tool. We're going to be creating the part of our image that's going to be the ground. So I want you to decide where your horizon line is. If you want to add more things in the sky, you can put it lower down on the page. Or if you want to add more things on the ground, you can put it higher on the page. I'm going to put mine higher on the page. So I'm starting over here on the far left, lining my cursor up at the edge of the document. I'm going to click with my mouse and hold and drag it down and across to the bottom right hand corner and then let go. So I have the entire bottom portion of the document selected. All right, now I'm going to fill it in with a color. I'm going to use the gradient tool. I'm on the gradient tool. We're going to go to the gradient editor. Double click. All right, and I'm going to change the color by double clicking on this color stop. I can customize the color. I want it to look like sand, so I'm going to bring the color down to orange. I'm going to start with a darker brown, maybe a medium brown there. And then over here on this color stop, I'm going to double click and again go down to the brownish area, the orangish area, and I'm going to make more of a tan color, a lighter brown there. Okay, there's my gradient. I'm going to push OK. Right now I have the linear gradient selected. So now I go to the edge, I click and I drag across, and I will get, it will look like there's a light source over here, and the light is falling off as I go away from the light source. So I can drag it down to up to down, across. You can decide how you want this landscape to appear. Okay. I think I'm going to go maybe like this. Okay. All right, now I'm going to create the sky. All right, so I'm going to um, go up here to the menu bar and I'm going to select the inverse. Select inverse. So now instead of having the bottom half selected, the horizon line stays the same, but the rest flips up to select the sky portion. All right, I'm going to go to my gradient tool and I'm going to choose the colors for my sky. Double click. Okay. Make it super intense blue, sky blue. And then over here, I am going to make it a lighter blue. See how that looks. Okay. Push OK. And now again on my gradient tool, I can try selecting this or try putting the gradient in different ways until I'm happy with the way it looks. So it looks like there's some kind of sunrise or sunset. The light is kind of here and the sky is falling off and getting darker as it goes away. Now I need to deselect the sky. So I'm going to go to select and go to deselect. Okay, so next we're going to add clouds. And again, this is just one possibility. If you come up with a better way, that's great. Share it with us. I would love to see it. We're going to add a new blank layer. So the new layer is down here to the left of the trash can. It looks like a square with the corner of the paper turned up. I'm going to click on that. And on this layer, I'm going to rename it. Double click on it to rename it. Call it clouds. On this, I might get a lot of layers. This way, it just is easier for me to find things. All right, I'm going to go with my brush tool. And I've got to go up to the options bar and bring the hardness of the brush down to 0. All right, and I'm going to choose a color for my clouds. I'm going to go with maybe a very, very light pink for the clouds. Let's see how that looks. Again, I want to make sure that the hardness of the brush is on 0. I'm going to use the bracket tool. So if I look at my keyboard, I'm going to use the bracket tool to make my brush bigger. Now you can experiment with various brushes to see which brushes you might like better that might work better for making clouds, okay? You don't have to use the soft edge brush. You can try other brushes and experiment. So on the clouds layer, I want to make sure that's selected because I want to paint on this layer so that my clouds, I can move them around and I can possibly, you know, lower the opacity, and I'm actually going to be blurring them a little bit later too. So I'm going to try to make these look like big puffy clouds, kind of irregularly shaped. Again, you got to make sure that you have that soft edge brush on. And I suggest that you maybe even go over it. Sometimes if I make too many dots, sometimes it starts to look kind of splotchy, so kind of fill it in. You can have some dot looking ones. Okay. And I can also, of course, use the bracket tool to change the size of my brush. All right, so my clouds are there. I can do stuff like lower the opacity, okay? But another thing I can do to make them look more cloud-like is I can go up to the filters at the menu bar. So I'm going up to filter, and this time I'm going to use one of the blur filters. I'm going to go with the Gaussian blur. I'm going to click on the Gaussian blur. And Photopea gets a little slow when you use this tool, but I found that if I click where I want the slider to go and wait, that works better than trying to slide it up. But now you can see the clouds look a little fluffier. Okay. If I go all the way, they look, you know, almost misty. There we go. So maybe something like that. I'm going to push OK, and there we go. And again, if you want to play with the opacity to make them just kind of faint clouds, you can do that. Okay. All right, so that's our cloud layer. Now we're going to add some kind of a building or a monolith. Okay, it's going to look more like a facade. If you, so we're going to go down here. We are going to make another new layer. We'll call this one the building layer. And we're just trying to build your skills up so you can create things that you want. You don't have to use these exact, elements within your design. All right, I'm going to go to the rectangular marquee tool or the rectangular select tool, and I'm going to create just a rectangle that's going to become a building. There we go. You click and you drag until you get the shape you want. All right, we were on, you have the replace tool, okay, which is make a new selection. Now I'm going to go to the third double circle here over, this is called the subtract tool. And this is going to allow me to create little windows. And again, we're doing something surreal, so I can make these windows kind of crazy and all over the place. Okay. All right. So it's subtracted these areas from the selection. Next, I'm going to fill in my selection. I'm going to go to the paint bucket tool this time. So I'm going to click and hold because the paint bucket tool is under the gradient tool. There we go. And I'm going to choose a color for my building. Okay. And click. I can click anywhere, but it's only going to fill in the area that's selected. All right, so there it is, my monolith or my building. Now I need to deselect it. I'm going with select and deselect. You can also use Control D on the keyboard to deselect. All right, now I'm going to create a shadow. All right, so I'm going to go to my building layer and I'm going to duplicate it. I can click and drag it down to the make a new layer to copy it, or on your laptops you can right click and duplicate the layer. All right, I'm going to go to edit and I'm going to go to transform, and I'm going to flip this. I'm going to flip this layer vertically. Okay, I'm going to flip it vertically, and there we go. So it's the mirror image looking down. Okay, now if I want this to be a shadow, I'm going to make it black. And then I'm going to lower the opacity. Okay, so I'm using the paint bucket tool. I'm going to click on this shape. Let's see. Sometimes on Photopea you got to do it more than once. Let me, oh, I have the move tool selected, that's why. I'm going to the paint bucket tool and I have black selected. I click and there we go. We have what is going to become our shadow. We're going to play with this as we go. All right, next we're going to edit and we're going to go to transform and we're going to go to perspective. Click on that. Perspective transform allows you to pull the perspective of the thing out. So it looks like it's a shadow coming from this. So I push the check mark. Okay, and just kind of line it up as best I can. If it goes beyond where you want it to go, you might need to go to edit free transform. Hold the shift key to keep it proportional and make it bigger or smaller so that it goes all, just lines up with the edges of your shape. All right. Next, I'm going to take this and lower the opacity so it looks more shadow-like. All right. So now I have my building and my shadow. The building copy, we're going to change that to shadow. Building, let me duplicate that. Delete, oops. Command Z is my saving grace. Command Z goes back one step. So even though I accidentally deleted it, I'm going to, there we go. I'm going to call this building shadow. I'm sorry, Control Z on your laptop. I'm using a Mac, so it's Command Z. All right, now I'm going to do something that I didn't show you in class. I'm going to group these two things together into a folder. So I'm going to click on the top layer, and I'm going to hold the Shift key, click on the building layer so that these two are together. Make sure, I'm going to go to the Move tool, make sure Auto Select is not selected. So I can move these two around together, but I want to connect them together permanently, okay? So I'm going to go down here to this little new folder, click on that, and now these things are together in the folder. If I still need to move them, for example, if I go to the look at the shadow, maybe I need to move it just a little closer. There we go, to get it to line up. All right, but now when I close the folder, these things are together and I can just move them around. Okay, so if I want to duplicate them, I can duplicate it and move it here. I can transform it, so I can go to Edit and I can go to Free Transform. I can hold the Shift key, make it really small so that I can put it way in the background. Maybe really small. Okay, like it's really, really far away. Okay, so I could, again, duplicate as many as I like. Move them around. Now remember, this is like surreal, so we can do things that don't necessarily happen in reality. So for example, the shadows can overlap weirdly like this. Okay, there we go. All right, so next I'm going to make a bubble. All right, so again, these are all just possibilities. It's not something that you have to do, but I'm just trying to give you some interesting dreamlike elements possibly. I'm going to make a blank layer. Okay, we're going to call this one bubble. Okay, and I'm going to bring that one to the top. Next, I'm going to be using my ellipse tool, ellipse select. All right, when I'm using this, because I want it to be a circle, I want to put it as a fixed ratio. It's going to come up as 1 to 1, which is fine. That means that the height and the width will be the same, and you will get a circle. So I click and drag. Okay, there we go. And we've got our circle selection. Next, I'm going to go back to the gradient tool. All right, and I'm going to choose a color for my bubble. I could use the sky colors. Maybe I'm going to just mix it up a little bit. Maybe make it a little bit purple and a little more purple down here, lighter purple. Okay, and then I'm going to use up here, oh, push OK, and then I'm going to use the radial gradient. Okay, now I'm going to click and drag and see how it looks. Now it's kind of going the opposite way that I want it, so let's see, I do that, or I can reverse it. There we go. So it gets darker around the outside. I could leave it as a sphere or a ball, okay? Or I can, let's see, Command D. Okay. All right, so, ooh, that's looking pretty good. Now, if I want it to be more bubble-like, the Control D deselected it. All right, if I want it to be more bubble-like, I can bring the opacity down. Okay, and then I can bring it in front of things. I can duplicate that, bring it around, Command T, oops, sorry. In Photo P, it's Command Control T to go to free transform. Hold the Shift key. I can make it smaller, make it look like it's a bubble like back here. Okay. Yeah, so I can make as many bubbles as I like from that. Duplicate it many times. And again, on the keyboard, Control Command T will go to free transform. All right. Okay, if I want it to look like it has a shadow, okay, I could do something like this, duplicate the layer, bring it down below it, go to Edit, go to Transform, go to Perspective, and pull it out like that. Now it's too big, but if I go then to Edit, Free Transform, hold the Shift key, I can make the shadow much smaller. And check mark. Bring the opacity way down so it kind of, I could probably, maybe I should have changed it to, you know, a black also, which, yeah, I could do. But anyways, that is one way of possibly getting some kind of shadow on it. Okay, now, one last thing. I'm going to just take my clouds down here and duplicate them. All right, and then I'm going to pull this down here. Now, I did make my clouds right at the edge, so I'm going to add a mask to this cloud duplicate. I'm going to make this more into a fog or a mist. So I'm going to use my brush tool. I'm going to use black on the mask here and paint this so that I get rid of that edge and that this looks a little more misty. Okay, and if I want to pull it up here, I can lower that opacity even more. I'm going to maybe delete this shadow. Okay, so this is my clouds copy. I can put it up on top. I can duplicate it again, bring it down. I can go to Edit and I can transform it and flip it horizontally so it doesn't look like it's just the same thing over and over again. Could add it to the other mistiness. Okay, so that it looks like there are clouds kind of around it. You know, and there are various ways that I can transform it. There is a transform and warp. So if I warp it, I can pull this down, stretch it out, again to change the shape of it so it looks like different clouds than the ones above, and push the check mark when I'm happy with that. All right. So there we go. So just, you know, I don't know that I love this right now, but just playing around with it. Oops. Up here I have got a line that I would have to take care of. Whoop. Command Z. I was painting on the layer and not on the mask layer. There we go. Because I flipped it, it had the line from the edge. So I just kind of went in and got rid of that. All right, so this would be a landscape that I then could select different pictures, things, select objects or people from different photos that I have, select and mask and bring them right into this picture. Okay, so this is, we're going to save it, file as a PSD, so I can add to it and move things around later. Well, good luck with your painting, and we'll do another video to add the objects later on. Bye.